What is happening? Something is going on. Can you feel the wave?
My name is Dr. Eugene Malov, and I am an engineer with several degrees from MIT in astronautical engineering in the late 60s, and an environmental doctorate from the Harvard University School of Public Health. I have worked in the energy field, in the nuclear power safety systems field, in the research and development area for defense and space and environmental applications. Began to be a writer about science and technology in the mid-1980s and became not only an engineer but a journalist about these scientific areas, frontier areas of science and cosmology and many things that focused and caught my attention at the time. What brought me to this most immediate juncture of my life in the cold fusion and new energy area was that I had come back to my alma mater, MIT, in 1987 to be the chief science writer at the MIT News Office. And my job was to tell the world what was going on in the various frontier research areas at MIT, a very nice job, interface with the media and write up major scientific articles, journalistic, for the MIT community at a very sophisticated level. But then, of course, March 23rd, 1989 rolled around, and a rather astonishing announcement came out of Utah, which was to the effect that Doctors Fleischmann and Pons had said they took a jar of heavy calorimetric cell of heavy water with palladium and platinum electrodes, and they were getting more energy out than they were putting in. Moreover, this energy was of such a magnitude that they could not explain it chemically. They felt and believed and that it was a nuclear process. So that's how I began my interest in that field. I wrote the book Fire from Ice, Searching for the Truth Behind the Cold Fusion Furor, which was published by John Wiley & Sons, nominated for Pulitzer Prize, by the way, in 1991. It basically concluded in the spring of 1991, after great difficulty on my part assessing the data. The data was in favor of a real low-energy nuclear reaction producing not only nuclear effects but heat of nuclear magnitude was overwhelming. And I believe further developments have absolutely ratified that. I was right. Since that time, I have founded a magazine called Infinite Energy, which is now in 38 countries around the world. It doesn't have a huge readership, but it's influential in those circles that are open-minded to these new discoveries in the low-energy nuclear reaction area. That has caused me, I might say, to also broaden my interests. Having seen what the physics establishment is capable of doing to a very clear, scientifically proven phenomenon, I have been very open-minded toward other claims, particularly those in the energy and propulsion area. My background is, in fact, in propulsion. I'm an astronautical engineer, interested in interstellar travel. I wrote the Starflight Handbook, for example. We now, in our magazine Infinite Energy, cover not only the low-energy nuclear reaction field, but electromagnetic anomalies, thermodynamic anomalies, other claims that could lead to spectacular energy advances on this planet. One of the most amazing and serendipitous discoveries, totally unexpected in the cold fusion field, is that certain cold fusion experiments have evidenced transmutation of heavy elements. That is, somehow, this is what looks like what's happening. The hydrogen, or the heavy hydrogen, whichever type of cold fusion experiment it is, that gets into the metals that are used for the cold fusion cathodes or the catalytic materials, these have evidenced changes in the elements of a remarkable nature, such as one element is the dominant element, that is what the cathode is made out of, and yet after the experiment runs, you find several dozen other elements that have appeared. This was then used as sort of a cold fission process, one might think, a kind of a fusion fission, where hydrogen is evidently affecting the heavy element, and then it's fissioning into some other fragments without deadly radiation. What was tried naturally, as was an obvious thing to try right after observing those effects, was to put radioactive materials into these cells and see whether they might be changed also. And lo and behold, they were. There are at least 4 companies in the United States working on cold fusion, very low level, very underfunded, that have pretty clear evidence that uranium and thorium, as an example, when put into certain matrices and subjected to very minute input powers, result in transmutation to non-radioactive materials. This is alchemy. This is modern alchemy. I would also say, on the lines of spiritual development, that as we learn more and more about physics and the mistakes of restriction that have been given to us by the physics establishment and its arrogant certainties about what it believes, we now see ties to many other areas that focus directly on other anomalies that have nothing directly to do with energy production, such as various experiments at Princeton and other places that show a human-machine interaction, something new about consciousness that may have to do with the physics of the ether or the plenum of existence, things that we had no idea of, that really broaden our spiritual viewpoint as to what humanity is. Mainstream physics has given us this very materialistic basis for interpreting who we are, and that is we are, quote, nothing but atoms and, with their structure, and this all aggregated together and produces this mechanistic sort of body doing this wonderful thing with consciousness and everything, but nothing much beyond that. No transmission of information from mind to mind, no affecting of objects, no anything but the most obvious mechanistic, restricted view. Now, it may be that that's in fact what we are. I doubt it very much based on the experimental evidence that's been shown already, but that is a viewpoint, and that is the dominant viewpoint of the reigning scientific establishment. I think what cold fusion and these other energies will do, if I may say, is it will be a concrete example in the relatively near term of how wrong the physics establishment and the scientific establishment is. That may in fact turn out to be as important to the implications for the future as the energy itself. Of course, the energy will transform the world, but the idea that mainstream science can so have abused an obvious effect that was ratified over and over and over again in laboratories and suppressed this and attacked it, much as the church in the early 17th century attacked the Copernicans and Galileo and so forth. This will be a big message to humanity. Do not trust the reigning scientific establishment to give you the truth about the universe.